Alright, what's going on, guys? Let's go ahead and get this show on the road. Let me know if you guys can hear me alright in the chat. See if everything's working okay. Yeah, we didn't do a morning stream today. Unfortunately, I had some people that were supposed to come and work on my ceiling in my house, but they didn't end up showing up today, so they're actually coming now on tomorrow morning, so there won't be a morning stream tomorrow. They're supposed to come tomorrow morning. Hopefully they show up. But yeah, that's the plan, so no morning stream tomorrow. So probably another night stream later tomorrow, so switching it up. Getting a little bit of a different time zone here. Here is our gal from the Art War 2 challenge that we've been working on. I've been working on this a lot since we last streamed. I don't know what the last version was when we were on stream. I can just load up a little bit of an older version so that you guys can see some progress here between the two. So some proportional changes, very slight. I'm going to probably yank those proportions, at least of the legs, to be a little bit longer, even still. But yeah, bounce back and forth between those two so you guys can see some of these changes that we got going on here. We got perspective turned on. So some tweaks to the face. I want to do some more tweaks to the face tonight, actually. There's more than a few things that I have on the checklist here. I'll just go ahead and delete that since we don't need it, and I'll turn on live booleans so that we can see what's actually going on here. So I've made, like I said, a lot of changes here. I can maybe talk about some of those if you guys have some questions, but I think for the most part I'm just gonna go ahead and get to work, and I have a lot that I want to take a look at. On the Art War 2 forum, I was lucky enough to have somebody very kindly provide a paint over of some aesthetic changes that they thought would be good, and you know what, I agree with them on some, so we're gonna be looking at some of those changes here. One was lengthening the legs here. This is a little bit of their paint over. This was an older version, and I've kind of taken some of it into account. There's some good stuff in here, bringing out the forehead and kind of shelving, I should say, the face, the female face, so that it has that nice downward angle between everything. And I've already done some stuff with the neck, which I had planned already. And yeah, there's some other good stuff in here. I'm not sure how much I want to tweak on the actual front shape of the face there, but we can maybe look at that in and out of perspective to get an idea of changing that face shape up from the front. Might want to do some stuff with some eyelids in here just to add a little bit more depth to those eyes as well, because right now we're just working with a single cylinder right there that I've painted rather quickly. But I've done some other tweaks here that you guys can probably notice if you've been following me on the stream. Junte, welcome. Welcome. But yeah, let's go ahead and get to it. I want to line this up a little bit here, see-through mode, and get an idea of... I've already lengthened the legs. I'm going to turn off perspective. I've already lengthened the legs a little bit, and I just want to see how much they lengthened the leg in their paint over, as they just did a transformation and just kind of stretched it down, if I'm not mistaken. So even let's make sure that our scale is correct, which it's not. I've moved my head down at this point, so I just want to line up my chest as best as I can. And I've made some other proportional changes. If you want to scale from, or not necessarily scale, it's referred to as scale here, or zoom 3D. It's actually scaling the object on the document. Don't worry about it. But you can choose the location that you want that to happen by clicking with your mouse. So, looking at this, let's see here. We have perspective on, so that makes it a little bit more, or I'm sorry, we have perspective turned off. That makes it a little bit, you know, difficult to tell. Let's try this. Move this, maybe scale it a little bit. Just try to get that more in the center of the document. We can look at that. So like I said, I've already kind of stretched the legs a little bit here, and I've actually shortened my neck. My neck was a little bit long on this character. But yeah, let's look at maybe lengthening those legs even a little bit more. I'm going to use my transpose tool. Look at measuring some stuff here. As you can see, my center point here is a little below the crotch, so I don't know, we'll play with it. But there's some other good info in here, some tweaks that I kind of like, some that I don't, but there's I think some good aesthetic changes to the face. One in which being, you know, changing the shape of the eyes and a little bit to get a little bit of a harder turn there, which I've kind of already done. Maybe increasing the size of our lips, making them look a little bit more full, and I do like that idea quite a bit. So let's look at doing that next. Another thing I want to look at is messing with maybe the shape of our head from the profile view, which I pointed out. A little bit flat there, looks a little awkward. And as well as possibly shifting our nose a little bit here. Maybe the shape of our face, just adding a little bit of roundness here. As you can see, it's a little bit notched. If I can hide that body, makes it a little bit easier to see the silhouette. And with that, turning that off, going all the way down to a dark black color. Hide the neck if it's in the way. See that shape a little bit better. Looks like we have some material stuff going on here. That happens when you're typically messing with smooth or any brush with RGB value on it at a lower subdivision level. All you have to do is select your material channel, go back to that material, fill that back in. You should be good to go. Alright, so let's look at our lips here first. Immortal says, wow, it looks cool. Well, thank you, Immortal. We've done, like I said, quite a few tweaks. Some painting on our skin textures, some blending of certain parts and pieces. But yep, it's all time. It's the great equalizer, in my opinion. We might be able to just select our poly group here. And, whoops, I didn't want to smooth that out a little bit. Just try to get a little bit of some, quote, fuller lips. More so just, you know, thicker. The mouth shape is, you know, it's just kind of open right now. I wasn't sure. I just wanted to make sure that I got some teeth in there. Move back face masking can be really good for this kind of thing. And I think I want to try to change this angle a little bit. Let's look at it. Let's see what it looks like once we make these changes. Try to get a little bit more just depth from the profile, as we're quite flat between these transitional points. We want to be careful though, as we don't want to destroy a lot of the form that we've built up, which can be pretty easy to do if you're not careful. So we're gonna go into transpose master here. I just want to make sure that I don't have anything visible. I'm just gonna toggle off a bunch of stuff here. Bunch of groups we don't need. It's gonna make transpose master take longer to go through all this. I'll probably organize this into more groups later on, but for now I think we're good. This is something I want to play with as well, which is possibly creating some headphones for this character. I thought that that would be pretty interesting. These tattoos are actual geometry, which I showed in our last stream. I was kind of playing with that, and I had a lot of fun doing that. Oh, we do need that one. Body's connected to the face there. We don't need this ponytail though. We can hide that. I'll keep the rest of the facial stuff on though. Alright. Quick save and go into T-Pose Master. Let that do its thing. Turn on symmetry. And select all the stuff that we're going to affect here. I think mainly at first, just our forehead and eyebrows. So I just want to make a quick mask here. Just kind of making sure that I'm not affecting anything that I don't want to. Can soften that mask a little bit in both directions and try to get some pull out here. I'm gonna try to keep perspective on while I do this. Trying not to go overboard here and do too much. I want to get, you know, some of that depth in there, but I don't want it to go too far to where I'm breaking stuff. Like I said, it's really easy to let's turn that down. It's really easy to break your form that you've spent a long time to build up. Not sure what's going on there. We had a little bit of a border going around ZBrush. Let's try to really pull this out, just to get an idea of how far we can push this before it breaks. Honestly, I don't hate it. I think we're getting a nice curve through here. We're getting a better curve from our profile view. Spy Char, what's going on? And Tristan Armstrong. My baby mama had a psycho moment and smashed my PC. Oh my gosh. That sounds rough. Well, I'm glad to have you back with us, Tristan. And it sounds like maybe either you have a new computer or you're watching from somewhere else, but either way, glad you're here and hope your baby mama woes get sorted out. Whoa. Want to be very careful when you're in Transpose Master not to duplicate your mesh really quick accidentally. You can get some really bad results that way. You won't be able to you won't be able to, you know, T-pose your mesh back to all your subtools. That's not what you want. Trying to soften this transition just a wee bit. I'm gonna hide that. I kind of just have these in here. I might add a little bit of a flat eyelid in there and play around with that. And now I'm just going to kind of play with our silhouette and the shape of some of these proportions a little bit more. I kind of want to try to like inflate this area ever so slightly. Uh-oh, it looks like our symmetry got turned off there at some point. Try to find out. This looks symmetrical. Can't tell. I think it's close enough, honestly. But keep our symmetry turned on here. And just kind of pull this out ever so slightly. I currently have my Z intensity set pretty low so that, you know, when I go around smoothing out some of this stuff, I have to press pretty hard if I want to, you know, really smooth it out, just so that I'm not really destroying my form too quickly here. I want to be really careful. Just polygrouping my head. You can mess with your polygroups all you want while you're in Transpose Master. It's not going to affect anything once you get out of it. All your polygroups will come back. So don't worry too much about that. You can edit these however you like. Try to shift my light a little bit. I want to get a little bit of some better blending going on here. I actually have a separate piece of geometry, which you can see here, that I'm using to blend between the neck and the head. And I've used this tactic in some other areas as well, but blending that is not an issue. I don't want to blend my face and neck completely yet, though, because I have some really nice topology going on here for, you know, some automatic stuff in ZBrush. Not automatic. I'm automatic plus some manual guidelines here with the polygroups. But if I dynamesh that together, we'll lose that. I still want those while I tweak the face a little bit, while we're still kind of playing around with some of those things. So, flipping back and forth between perspective, just making sure that things are looking good. Trying to soften that jawline just a little bit. Again, we got that geometry here poking through. Kind of adjust that where necessary. And just because the lower subdiv is poking through there doesn't mean that my higher up piece isn't. Or is, I should say. It most likely is not. Kind of want to turn out my little ear pieces that I got going on here, or at least attempt to. Maybe just mess with the position of these altogether. One thing, once you go into Transpose Master, your creasing does not come with it, with your transposed subtools. So just keep that in mind. Normally these are all creased and look really nice. But I can't really visualize that perfectly right now because of that one thing. Just playing with the angle of these a little bit. Brand Middendorf, the B Random boy. What's going on, dude? Glad to have you. How's the D&D planning going, I guess? Because I know you don't do anything else. So a little bit of tweaking to these. Kind of looking at silhouette a little bit. Crossing my eyes as I do. So just another, you know, typical day. Stressing too hard over the global game jam, yeah. You do a lot of planning for that. So I can understand that. I'm sure. Sounds like you've gotten a lot of sponsors though. If you guys aren't familiar with what GGJ is, it's the Global Game Jam. Probably have somewhere close to you where you could participate in that if you're interested in making games at all. But yeah, Brandon Middendorf here. He's in charge of our local GGJ chapter and setting up all that. He does a lot of work for that. He's a good dude. Let's see. Thank you for auto-completing that, Google. Fox ears kind of turn out a little bit, don't they? What is this? Is that a fox? That can't be real. So maybe try out-turning these just a little bit. Or maybe a lot, just to kind of see what we're playing with. See how that changes the silhouette. Might change the way these bend. I don't want them to look like horns though, is the thing. There are 109 countries and over 800 locations. There's no reason not to participate. After Global Game Jam, gonna get that Into 07 that comes with ZBrush. Ooh, Brandon's gonna become a ZBrush boy. Does sound like a good idea. I like it. ZBrush is tough though. I'm just kind of looking at this from every angle, seeing if I really like that out-turning. And I think I do. I just kind of want to make sure that I maybe align some more of this stuff a little bit better. Like I said, I don't have any of my creasing, and I can't do my Boolean subtractions in here, so I can't exactly see what this will look like. Which is fine. I'll make do with, you know, with what I have. But it's still tough. Remask these. Play with this angle. Kind of already had him lilted a little bit already. I think it's looking good. Just need to get that angle a little bit better there. That piece isn't actually coming through there. That's a Boolean subtraction piece, so I'm not worried about that. Come on. I'm gonna do a bad thing. Just use my move brush. Do not attempt this at home. I'm being a bad boy. I would say most of the time you don't want to move your hard surface geometry with a large scale move brush, but in this case, you know, I'm trying to get a certain turn here, and I need this to kind of stay above the hairline on one side, and it's not cooperating. Whew, just lost an eyelash. Getting kind of a nice S-curve in there. I don't know if I want to exaggerate that anymore though. Just trying to look at this from every possible angle here. Really, once I transpose this back, you know what? It's really not a big deal, because once I do transpose this back, I can undo 2 steps on every single piece, and it's right back to where it was, and it's not a big deal, not the end of the world. But really, I just want to kind of at least try to get a little bit of a different angle on those, and having to tweak those in a pretty strong way is necessary to do that, unfortunately. Let's look at possibly moving our nose a little bit here as well. Maybe just moving our mouth and our nose up. What I'm probably going to do after this is undo the changes that I made to her teeth, because it's just a cylinder in there. And after that, I'll just remove, actually it's 2 cylinders. I'll just move it back into position, because it'll start to, you know, tweak and lose its shape over time. Same with the eyes here. I want to be really careful that I keep the shape of those as well. Let's try to mask everything but our mouth and nose. We also got our teeth in here. And we'll do a quick couple masks there. Soften. And I could use my transpose tool, or try. Get a little shift up. Just move everything universally there. I think it's looking good from the 3/4 angle. From the front, it definitely looks better from the profile now that after, you know, making some of these changes. From the front though, it's a little meh. Trying to steepen this angle of transition. Really just some subtle changes here all over the place. We can step all the way back. And let's look at some of these changes that we've made. So from this to that. let's see here. So, kind of playing with the roundness of the jaw. I did that a little bit. I did like this critique here for the profile of the face since it was so very flat. This was good stuff. I like the shape of my eyebrows, the triangular shape. I don't know if I already did it, but scaling these up, making them larger. I already made them a sharper shape, but maybe making them even larger to play with that as well. This angle, trying to pull back some of this. I think that's going to be with the blended shape of the neck here that we have. I've already kind of done that a little bit, kind of pulling that straight back there, blending into the neck, and then the sternocleidomastoids coming down and blending there. We can try to exaggerate that, I think, a little bit more here. We'll try to do a good job of that. So just select our face here. I'll try to make a decently clean selection. Start off with a really broad selection and unmask everything that we don't need. Shift our light, or actually, you know what? We're gonna keep it up top and just go upside down. Let's try a rotate from our chin. See how far we can push that there. Alright. I think we got some good changes here. Where'd that image go? Move this back over here. Let's go ahead and T-pose that back through and see what kind of changes we get. I'm going to try to stick this to my canvas real quick. It hasn't been working for some reason lately. Maybe because Live Boolean was on, really I'm not too sure, but let's T-pose. T-pose up through and check out some changes. It's really hard to kind of visualize some of that stuff without looking at your poly paint and everything else working together as a whole. So there might be some stuff that we undo, like up on the ears. These aren't as deformed as I thought they would be. Just kind of leave that in there. I think there's a lot better form transition going on in our profile view for sure. Kind of want to increase the size of our eyebrows a little bit. But in general, roundness of our face, kind of getting rid of that point, as well as some of this transitioning stuff. I think we got some good stuff going on here. in particular, I'm a lot more happy with this area and how that's transitioning now. Be a little bit careful here as we're bleeding into the hair. So this is just a blend piece is what I call them, where I'm blending between essentially my neck and my head, and I just have a separate piece of geometry in here for the time being to help those blend a little bit more smoothly through there. You can see that fractaling happening there. It's not a huge problem. You can just reapply that material and it'll be just fine. Alright, so that's a little bit of a look at our face, changing some stuff in there. Play with the eyebrows a little bit more. Like I said, I've kind of already squared them off, made them a little bit, at least more, well, they're just kind of polymodeled right now, but I can subdivide them and smooth them. They're a little bit of a stronger shape though, and I prefer that. Just kind of keeping those. I might mess with those a little bit later too. But where'd that cylinder go? So I was thinking about doing some headphones on here. Let's turn on live bowling real quick, just to make sure that this is lining up before we move on to something else. You can also see that I've actually turned our negative Boolean subtraction that we had here on this piece of geometry into a positive, just to add a little bit more form there. I think it's a little bit more interesting of a shape instead of doing a negative. I'm talking about this yellow piece here. I originally had that cutting into the mesh of the ears up here. Just kind of playing with that though. I kind of like that a little bit more, at least for the time being. Kind of looking at the angles here. So I've done some headphones before, if you guys remember my Marina sculpt. Let me pull that up real quick. I'm going to do something similar probably. I'm going to go to Insta. By the way, guys, it's Fiona the Hippo's birthday today, if you guys didn't know. Cincinnati local here. Get to celebrate. I did a sculpt to her a little while ago. It's a cute little hippo. I like me some Fiona. But yes, Marina. Let's see, here are the headphones. So, I actually imported these on my mesh just to see kind of visually what they look like. I want to do something that's not rounded. I think the round style doesn't really fit the kind of sharp shape language that we're already building. So I kind of want to do something that's maybe more shaped like her ear, actually. Play around with those basic primitive shapes, see if we like it, and we can kind of play around with that for a few minutes. If it's not something that we're feeling, no big deal. We don't have to spend a ton of time on it. I'm gonna hide some junk here. I was also, I don't know what you guys think about this. The little hood back here, it kind of looks like a little creature of some kind. I was thinking it would be cool, maybe if this is like her companion of some kind somehow, and it can like jump off of her back and walk along with her, and I don't know. I just kind of like the shape language that I got going on in this really well, and I don't know. Maybe I'll pull it up over her head. I think it's just kind of got that punky feel to it. Kind of reminds me a little bit of oh gosh, what the Invader Zim little robot who has his like little zip-up costume. I don't know why, it just like gives me that dark, cute aesthetic, and that's kind of what I'm trying to aim for. So anything that I can do that kind of pulls that in a little bit more is good here for sure. But yeah, so we've done a lot of hard surface on here before in our streams, but I say we do a little bit of tweaking just for a little bit longer to some other stuff, and then we'll look at the headphones, because I don't want to, you know, spend so much time doing all of one thing, and I want to make sure that we have plenty of time to cover some stuff that people are interested in. We're at about 15 minutes, so we're, you know, pretty close to the halfway mark. So that'll give us plenty of time to do some hard surface stuff. So I'm going to spend 10-20 minutes making some more tweaks, and then we'll look at some headphones and doing some hard surface modeling with ZModeler, as I know that's something that a lot of people request. And if you're around, come check it out. So yeah, just a few more tweaks, and we'll move on. I'm just kind of looking at some general stuff, seeing what I agree with on here. I really like the face changes that we made, kind of trying to play with that. I think we've made some good silhouette changes for sure. Very happy. Don't like these eyebrows in particular. I do like the changes that I've made to the eyebrows, but maybe those eyebrows still don't work so much. A couple more tweaks to the hair up here. I can turn my ponytail back on. Kind of like that. What they've suggested here, getting an extra strand. I just have one straight piece here. You can see the sketch over that they've done, adding an extra strand there. Not a bad idea. Right now it's just a single piece sticking straight up. Adding a little bit of curve to that as well. Originally it was supposed to be like a little cowlick that we had going on. And our concept here, a little spiky. But yeah, we'll play with that. I think I like that. So a little bit with the hair. The lips here look. I get what they were going for, and I think we've gotten closer to that. But we might just kind of scale up our lips in general. I think that maybe gets us closer to what we're looking for. I removed this rope around the leg completely. I've tweaked the feet a lot and blended some stuff together, but I might make some additional cuts there. I've gotten rid of the crap that was on her dress because I need to do that as a texture. All right. So let's look at the hair and maybe look at getting like a little kunai belt, not belt, but leg wrap kind of deal. I don't know, we'll see. The dress is also in desperate need of some form change and some life, as it's so extremely flat and boring right now. You can also get an idea, that waist to dough. Let's hide our arms real quick. and we'll come back to the hard surface headphone here shortly. I think our belt helps add to the form there, but we still might be creating a little bit too much of a shelf there, so we might look at that later as well. Alright, so let's take a gander at her here. This is actually a super low poly piece here, so I'm actually going to remesh this just because of the way that this is created. It's extremely sharp. Let's turn off live boolean because we get some super weird bleed. I actually think there are two pieces of geometry here. There are. That's not good. And let's add some curve from the side so we're not quite so straight. My chat is in the way right now. There we go. Alright, let's see. Let's just kind of play with our hair for a few minutes here overall. Also, when you ZBrush, you lose your material and poly paint applied, so I'll have to reapply that real quick. I'm just going to switch my material. Using move back face masking to add a little bit of thickness to this piece. And really play with just getting that off center more. What I like to do if I'm trying to smooth something out really quick is just subdivide it a couple times if it's just a single subdiv live piece of geometry, and then give it a quick smooth, just so I don't have to mess with my smooth brush strength or anything. And I can just kind of get a quick little, like on this, I was just trying to thin it out real quick, taper it down a little bit more, and that works out typically pretty well. Step back, delete higher, and let's get another quick piece of hair in here just to duplicate. Let's try a quick mirror just so I can get this going the other direction. Try to get this into position a little bit better. We'll do something shorter. Actually, I was gonna say let's hide that so that we can kind of worry about these one at a time. I don't know if I want both of these clustered up right towards the front. Hood Boy says, I made it. Well, welcome. Welcome. Glad you made it. Glad to finally have you be able to come hang out. It's been a while. Hope you're doing well. A little strange there. Really did not want to mask that. Super duper. Of course I'm doing good. 99% of the time, I'm good. What's not good is this character. We're getting there though. It's getting gooder. As normal humans say. Getting gooder. People say that all the time. Just takes time. Yeah, it's not good. Let's get rid of some edge loops in here. If I can. Delete edge loop. Not that one. Just trying to simplify our form. These ones don't matter so much. I want to add a crease in here if I can. This is probably going to freak out. Let me try getting rid of some caps here. And crease here. I don't know how that wrapped around. Should not at all. When in doubt, just do it manually, sadly. It's okay, there's not too many in here. I'm gonna turn off perspective. just to kind of give that a little bit more form. Let's try this. Another quick way to do some tapering. Use your mask tool and then taper the mask, and then use your deformation palette and inflate. What is going on here? Why is there a red spot there? We are gonna try the same thing down here that we just did. So delete some edge loops. Try to simplify this curve. And then I guess just manually add some creasing to here. Let's do a little bit of a different angle here. Try to wrap this around the other side. I think maybe exaggerating this piece similar to what we got going on up top. Make it a little bit more in the same vein. Yeesh. Come on. Kind of want to thicken some of these up without inflating them, because then it's just going to increase the size of everything, and that's not what we want. I had some creasing on these. Just doesn't look like it's really coming through my subdivisions that I've added to these. And if I step back down and delete my higher subdivs to get that creasing back, we're really going to lose a lot of our form here, unfortunately. I'm just going to try to manually build up some of these a little bit. Get a little too thin, I think. I do want to actually try deleting some subdivs from these, just to see if I can kind of force it to clean up a little bit and get those creases back, because I've kind of lost those at this point. If that's possible. Like I said, I have a feeling that this will end up kind of messing up a bunch of stuff if we do that. Alright, so I'm just going to duplicate, step all the way down. Let's just delete higher. See what dynamic looks like. So you can see a lot of the creasing I got going on here. There's some good forms for sure. You can see where that creasing is taking place in some of these. Perfect. I don't know. I might, in all honesty, redo a lot of that and just simplify it. I think we've gotten a little too busy here with some of this, and not in a good way. I'm starting to see that. Whoa! Got a little bug flying around. I was gonna try to ninja him out of the sky, but he got away. I'm watching him now. If he comes close, we can Jackie Chan him out of the sky. Delete lower, split hidden. So I still have my subdivs, I just have to reconstruct them if I want to do that. You can't split an object off unless you get rid of its subdivs first or freeze them. I wouldn't recommend freezing most of the time. Reconstruct here. Gotta get some of this form back. Make sure that's looking clean. So yeah, I think I'm gonna try to just clean this up manually with some extra tubes of geometry. I don't know if I'll do that right this second though. We'll look at the clock here in a minute. See what we got going on. I just want to look at some images. So originally I wanted to keep this really tight, really clean. And like I said, I think we maybe just got a little carried away with some of this, and it looks a little busy in my opinion. I mean, you know what? We might be able to reuse some of this and just remesh it. And try to smooth out some of this form. That might be a decent idea. We can play around with some of that. But yeah, I don't know. It's just a little haphazard. And that's probably because of the way that I made it. It looks a little banana peely in my mind. If I can avoid that, that would be great. Let's look at the clock here. Alright. So our 20 minutes about has elapsed. So I won't try to mess with that too much anymore. But yeah, I was looking at, let me see here. Why don't you guys let me know what you think? So we got some rounder shapes up here in the hair. Some rounder tubes with some creasing to add some sharp shapes. Do you guys like these shapes more? Or do you like the hair that I already have going on? Let me know what you guys think. Let me turn on live boolean. Looking at this from the front, I think these add a little bit more form, whereas these are just a little too flat in my, at least for my taste. Maybe we can find some happy some happy middle ground. I don't know. I'll probably play with the hair a little bit off stream though, so I don't have to talk so much and I can kind of experiment. But yeah, we'll see. So let's toggle some things off here that are going to be in the way, especially live boolean. Don't want to mess with that while we're playing around here. And turn off our little earrings as well. So I want to spend a little bit of time looking at creating some headphones. I just have a cylinder here. Doesn't have any creasing on it right now currently, but with a quick selection and a crease down here, you can crease those edges relatively quickly. Now playing with the shape, I said I wanted to get it a little bit closer to the shape of our ear. So I think trying to do that, we're gonna have to either convert this to a cube, just so I can have some hard edges to play with, or form this and get some creases on this cylinder. So let's see here. I have an old concept with some headphones on. This is an old concept. Just maybe playing with a little bit of a diamond shape. I'm gonna keep that up on the side. I don't think it looks really great in the concept, so that's kind of why I want to try to form it to the ear a little bit better and play with what we got, and then take it from there. So let's just do a cube. Cube. One cute cube, please. Move and scale this into position. Quick save often if you guys are working with the ZModeler brush, especially when you're working with symmetry. A lot of problems in my experience playing with that. So let's turn on transparency and play around with kind of some different shapes. ZModeler brush, let's insert a poly loop. What I love about ZModeler and doing this stuff in ZBrush is that it makes it super easy for you to use all of your other tools here and work with them kind of all in tandem. I'm going to use just a flat plane and then extrude it, and I want to show you guys something here. I have double on by default. If you guys don't know what double is, it's down at the bottom of your tool palette under display properties. It lets you see backside polygons. So if I turn double on, so you can see it toggles on there, I can see the back side of this. If it's off, I cannot. So I'm going to leave that on for now, but I want to show you guys something here once I'm done. So I can use all these tools to move, scale, and since I'm looking at this from an orthographic view, I can actually move these confidently and know that you know, it's not going to mess up any of the placement of my vertices. So as you can see here, if I snap to that orthographic view, you can't see that because everything's perfectly aligned to that view. So hold shift and rotate and then let go of your mouse and you'll get perfectly on that orthographic view, which is kind of what I've done here. Another thing you can do is use your slice curve brush to get some extra verts in there. I like doing that for some quick results. I find that works pretty well. Just kind of playing with adding some quick edge loops in here just to get some extra geometry. With your slice curve brush, while you're drawing that out, I'm holding Control and Shift to activate that brush. If you press Alt, you can kind of curve this a bunch of different directions. But if you double tap Alt, you can get a really sharp turn on that brush. which is also extremely useful, which is what I've done here to adjust that shape and get a little bit of a cut through there. Alright, so from here I want to do an extrusion using Z Modeler. Hover over a polygon, hold space, go to extrude all polygons. We've been doing this a lot on this character. And I am just going to extrude, it doesn't matter which way right now. I'm just going to extrude one direction. And that's, you know, all polygons. I can turn that back off if I want to. Now remember when I had double on visually. So you can look down here, we still have double on. I'm going to toggle that off so I can show you guys this. So it's a little bit weird right now. Essentially what you're looking at is the reverse side. It's a little confusing to look at. Makes your head a little dizzy. But what you're looking at right now is the flipped normals here. So we want to reverse these so we're looking at them the correct way. So you want to hit flip. That's necessary to make your geometry a solid piece as well. So keep that in mind. We want to do a little bit of creasing in here. So crease, edge loop. Get that top edge, and get our bottom edge, and just a singular edge here. Let's crease a couple of these and maybe play around with this shape, getting some interesting curves here. Just kind of seeing what this looks like. And maybe this one at the top. And maybe our shape is a little bit too strong here. Before I do anything, I just want to play with scale. What I love about the transpose tool is you can just click that inner white circle really quick and it snaps to the center of your unmasked polygons. These edge loops I think are adding a little bit too much form. Let's try to maybe get rid of one of those and take the other one and do a move infinite radius edge loop complete, just the default action. Grab that, you can move it wherever you want, but if you hold shift, it will slide along that edge loop. So I can kind of grab that, hold shift, and slide it down. Try to find a little bit of a better place for that. Actually, let's move that back. Let's delete this one. So we only have a singular piece here in between. Let's delete this one. See what our rounded edges are looking like. Getting an interesting shape here. I'm gonna mask out here. I'm gonna try to round out some of this. I'm keeping dynamic on right now just so I can kind of visualize what this is looking like. And maybe play with this shape as well. And now I'm still moving on that orthographic view down here, so it's very important for me. I want to be careful that I don't, you know, accidentally slide along this edge, this angle. Trying to be very intentional here with my movements. I'm actually going to try to uncrease this. So I have a 1, 2, 3, 4 creased edges. And let's uncrease this one as well. We'll change where this crease is happening. Play with this shape a little bit more. I want to get a shape here that I really like before I go on to beveling and creating any kind of additional detail on top of here, but I would like to do some kind of beveling and extruding. It's just Control W. Control W just does a quick poly group of whatever you have masked. But if you don't have anything masked, it just polygroups your visible subtool, or all visible polys in that subtool, I should say. Play with this shape a little bit more. This is going to be the primary shape of our headphones, so I want to spend some time finding something that I like. I don't want to jump ahead and all of a sudden, oh, this looks like garbage. Swap our material as well. Looks like we're good. I also want to make sure that the scale of this isn't too crazy for the head. I want to make sure that things are going to line up as well. I don't want, you know, her jaw. I don't want it to be overhanging over her jaw and have like this weird lip underneath. I want to try to avoid that. Try to kind of straighten that out a little bit. Kind of liking that. Really, I'm just experimenting with shape at this point. And trying to create something visually interesting. Just playing with S-curves, my creases that I have in place, and everything else. These vertices are so close here that they're kind of rounding that edge out. So I am going to attempt to shift these along this edge. Another great thing about the transpose tool, I should say, is you can snap to vertices with it. So I mask these off, and I can go from this vertice to here, or actually, I should go from here to here. I can just slide along that edge really cleanly. Very helpful tool. And I think we'll just kind of move that in. Just making sure that we didn't have any doubled up geometry. The crease edge was looking a little strange there. Alright. Well, I'm liking this shape. Just want to make sure that, you know, our ear can fit inside of it first off. I think we got some interesting stuff going on here. I'm actually going to, whoops, extrude this now that I have this shape where I want it. And I'm doing this because I want this edge to be equidistant on each edge. I've kind of been manually tweaking these and playing with it, but it's a lot longer than it is down there on that side. So I'm just going to delete hidden on that, get rid of all those pieces of geometry, and do a extrusion of all polygons again, just to make sure that this is super clean. So extrude all polygons, pull that down, and we know what's happening already. So display properties flip, not a problem. And all we need to do is recrease this edge, that one, and that one. And we have our shape back. Next step, mask out that back side, click our inner white circle, and scale up from there. Now this is all going to be equidistant, and I can kind of shift my light here to be more direct if I want to make sure that that is happening, and it is. I could also do a deformation inflate. This only scales, you know, on one axis the way I'm doing it right now, though. Inflate would kind of push it out to the side here as well. So a lot of little Z-modeler tricks here and hard surface stuff while we're working, just to make sure that you have a really clean piece. This is pretty much how I do it, how I work when I'm trying to find some shape, even when I don't know the direction that I'm exactly going here. I want to try one last thing here. So originally I want to show you guys this. I was moving this up with the move tool and just clicking this inner white circle to shift it up. That's one way that you can move. I can also move with this outer circle, and what it's going to do is it's going to scale out from one vertex. It's also going to, you know, go whichever direction I want, but I'm holding shift and scaling that so all those vertices move an equal distance at the same time when I do that. I want to try the exact same thing here. Alright. Well, let's play with this a little bit more, and instead of just having, you know, a very simple piece of geometry. I didn't want it to be very clean, but I'll come back and tweak it later if I want to. But let's go ahead and move on and look at some other stuff that we can do here to start adding some additional form to our, what will be, I should say, our headphone. Let's begin by lining this up with our ear. I want to make sure, you know, we can fit over top of this. So just some rotation, some move, get this into place. I don't care if it's off the central axis. I can still work with it just as easily by snapping to normals and using my transpose tool to grow and shrink and do all sorts of other little tricks, little stuff like that. So I'm just looking to kind of line this up. And we could do, if we go back to our little Marina headphone sculpt here, we have like this padding on here, you know, that you would see standard on your headphones, any kind of headphones that you got. So a little bit of padding on the inner side. I can do something similar here, kind of play with that, so we can give a little bit of room to do that later. I can show you guys how I did that as well. I don't know if we'll get to it tonight though. A little bit of a better color there. Alright, so get that into basic position. I'm giving a little bit of leeway there between the head so that we can have maybe that foamy padding to kind of go in between there and around the ear. So you want to have room for that. Let's go ahead and do some beveling on this edge up top, this surface. So if you're using ZModeler, you can hold the Alt key, and you're going to get these white polys as you click and drag over polygons, and that's masking essentially. And it won't mask like a normal mask. Your brushes still work, but what it does is it's essentially like a multi-polygon selection. So if I click extrude a single polygon from here, it will actually extrude all the polygons that I've done this modification on. So it's very powerful. You can do a lot of different stuff with this. Another thing that I can do is I can bevel all of these at the same time. The problem is that we'll get some in-between edges beveled, and that's not what we want. I have to do a manual bevel because of the way that this is set up, and to do that I need to do an extrusion like I've done here, and I need to mask off all of these polygons. Flip my mask, snap that to the center, and do a scale in. Now this is twofold here, since I already have this selected, you know. Ooh, could have killed that bug. He'll come back. It landed right on my Cintiq, taunting me. So I could bevel this edge loop. I just couldn't bevel the top-facing polys. But what we can do is start to push this in now that we have this shape. And you'll see here that we're getting some rounded edges. It's alright, we'll probably want to pull in the crease up to this edge. But before I do that, well actually let's go ahead and do that real quick. So crease, I'm doing this so that I can show you what will happen here. So those are creased, pulling in there, and then onto that flat surface. So I'm going to bevel edge loop this edge here just a little bit, and you'll see that it actually uncreased those edges. It actually uncreased all of these edges, unfortunately. And that's just a consequence of using the bevel edge loop functionality perpendicular to a creased edge. So you get some problems there. It's not a huge deal, but just be aware of that when you're working, because you can end up losing a lot of crease work if you're not aware of that. So I'm going to have to recrease those edges. I also want to come through, make that a little bit thicker. Do a bevel down here as well. See that let's avoid doing that for just a sec. Let's go ahead and recrease some stuff. So crease edge loop complete. And what I'm going to do is kind of do these manually, or automatically at first, and then clean them up manually. So get rid of these center edge loops. So keep those nice and tight, keep those creases there. Get rid of these creases on the flats. The flats don't need to be creased. And we have a nice shape there. I'm going to do a separate piece of geometry just so that I can material block this out. And that means that I can apply a solid color and material to this piece if I'm rendering in like Keyshot really quick. And instead of doing UV and texture map to do that, I'll just have a separate piece of geometry that I can, throw a different color or even material on here or something like that really quickly and easily. So I'm just going to do that by duplicating this geometry that I have here, Control-Shift clicking this, delete hidden. This is all one piece of geometry now, and we're going to do that trusty old extrude all polygons. And let's make sure our display properties are correct, which it looks like they are. So some recrease edges to make with that quick save. We already have that. So let's just crease edge, get these. And now we have this kind of separate piece sticking out of our headphone here. And this isn't exactly what we're looking for. I want to try to round this out, create like this rounded kind of cap shape on the end of this. So let's look at how we can do that. We can do a little bit of a bevel, edge loop complete, and I want to try to make this a larger bevel here than what I've normally done. And you can see here that it's having a little trouble sticking to that edge loop. So just a few more tries and I can kind of get that. But what you can see what's happening here is it's kind of interpreting these quads pretty poorly up here. So instead of using bevel, we're going to use extrude, which, is unfortunate that we have to do that. But in this case, it's not that hard. Just a quick extrusion. Find that center. Scale that in. I can scale that in pretty hard, pretty tight, and make sure that I get rid of these creases. Maybe I want that, but I really don't. So just kind of uncrease that. See what kind of roundness we're getting here. Let's try this edge as well. See how that's doing. So what's really tough for ZBrush, just for 3D modeling in general, I should say, is going from a creased to an uncreased edge. And you can see that happening here. We're going from creased surface to uncreased. And I'm going to subdivide this really far just so you can kind of see what that looks like. And it's really hard to, get a really clean surface when you're working with stuff like this, trying to blend that. So we're going to do our best here to try to make this work a little bit better for us. There's a few little things, maybe some workarounds you could call them, that I could do. I can kind of slide that in a little bit more and try to hide those edges and maybe try to line that up as best as I can, trying to get rid of those so they're not quite as visible. I think it's going to be a combination of a few things, so we're gonna start off doing that. I'm also going to slide this edge here and attempt to get that tighter to our lower surface. So it's going to try to make these creased areas built up not quite as tall. So I'm going to bring that even closer. Essentially what I'm looking for is I want the crease to hold this tight corner, but I don't want it to create this awkward transition. And you can see here that we're getting a little bit of a concave surface, and we kind of want to avoid that as best as we can. So let's try to get in here and clean that up. I'm going to try something here. Definitely built up too much here. So let's shift this down. And I'm going to try to add to the roundness of this shape. So Z modeler, do another extrusion, and try to help this transition along. So trying to create this little end cap shape here. Try scaling. I'm getting really tight up here on this flat surface. Essentially I need to kind of spread that geometry out if I can. That's what that's telling me. So let's try to get an even better, more clean transition here. Subdivide a few times, you can kind of visualize what that's going to look like. You can see that we have definitely some problem areas, and that's just because of how our topology flows. So we have 3 edge loops here coming in pretty tight. It's going to make this area built up more so than you know, in this divoted area where we only have, well, we actually have the surface turning in that direction, so it's going to cause that. If we want to avoid that, which we do, there's a few different things that we can do. I can subdivide that and kind of play around with it and smooth it out. That would be my kind of quick way to tackle it, quick and dirty, just because I know that I can do it and I can have that control. If you're not confident in doing that though, I would recommend, you know, playing around with the topology here and trying to find something that's a little bit more even distribution of polygons. Let's see here. So just a quick look here. Basic shape, we're doing something a little bit different. I'm not a huge fan of this, like I said. But yeah, trying to do like a little end cap piece. Just quick and dirty here. So let's leave that as is for now, and we can look at doing some padding. And it's going to be interesting because we have a pretty unique shape here. With something that's rounded, it's a little bit easier to get that basic shape. But for this, we're going to have to play with it and see what we can come up with. So I am going to duplicate our original geometry here. And begin by extruding out, let's say, Z modeler. I'm not sure why. There we go. Couldn't select those polys. Was not happy. I'm going to extrude these out. And there's definitely a few ways to do this. What I'm going to do though is take this piece, duplicate it, go to transparency, and scale this geometry in just like so. And then scale out, pull this through, and some of you might know what I'm doing. gonna get rid of this extra geometry up here. And see if I can snap to this in the correct direction. Alright. That should be fine for our purposes. So, I'm going to put this inner piece on negative, just turn on live boolean, and see what this is going to look like. So it's kind of struggling to interpret some of this. It's not a big deal. Let's go ahead and see what we get from this live boolean. I don't typically do this with low poly stuff, but because it's a true boolean, we should, fingers crossed, get a really clean piece. And it's kind of interpreted this in a way to kind of create some tries and clean that up as best as it can. What I would like to do is delete a lot of this. So if I can, select just our red polygons here, hide these blue. Luckily we got polygroups here, so I'm gonna try to, it's being touchy. Let's do this. So we just have this outer edge now. And let's try to extrude all polygons in. And now we can have a base for that padded shape. And we can play with creasing for that as well. So I'm just going to take that and append that new shape that I created. We'll go down and grab that and move it back up. Got a lot of subtools here. 64 now. And we'll move that into position, and I am just going to get rid of those extra pieces that we made for the boolean. We didn't even need them. We can take a look at this. At our padded piece here. And that's the base for that. Malcolm says, what's up? I get to catch the stream for a bit. Well, awesome. Glad to have you. Turn off live boolean here. I know I don't stream at night too often, too much anymore. It just kind of depends. It seems like a lot more people, at least for me in my time zone, can come hang out in the morning streams a little bit more often. But I'm glad you could come join us for sure. So some stuff. We got some stuff going on here. And some stuff that's maybe not great and a little bit confusing. So I can kind of match that shape for our padding, and that's fine. Let's go back to our headphones here that I've created. So you can kind of see that I've been able to match that shape. It's really easy for a cylinder to be able to match that and begin just sculpting this form for the padding of that earpiece for the headphone. But with the shape that we have, it's a little bit more complicated. It's a little bit harder, more difficult to match that. So let's pull our edge in here more, and we can look at some ways that we can kind of begin blending some of this. And a lot of this is fairly difficult to do. I won't lie. I definitely struggle with getting some of this to be really clean, and it's really stuff that you have to kind of work on and try to play with until you can get it to a really clean place. And there's just a lot of different techniques here that are kind of playing together that I'm going to be doing to attempt to really get this to a clean place that I'm happy with. So I'm just going to kind of try to make some of that happen. Just kind of try to thicken that up. And again, some of these corners are going to be problem areas, so we want to just be aware of that. A lot of these tight areas. You can see how ZBrush gets really confused when you're trying to create some stuff like this. Like I said, it's it just physically is kind of impossible to kind of do what we're asking here, which is why, you know, after the fact we're gonna have to come through and I think clean some of this up and try to soften these forms. But we will make it work. It's just time to get some really clean forms. I'm at such a small scale right now, this probably isn't going to scale in very well. It's kind of jumping on me. Our bevel's not being very clean there as well, so let's do our manual bevel as we've done before. We'll extrude. I'm gonna try a scale polygroup. Try this. That looks to have worked pretty well. Again, those bevels will get rid of your edge loops. Normally extrude keeps them, so honestly I don't know what ZBrush was doing with that one. Kind of dropped the ball. If you want to make some hard surface stuff look even more clean, really just bevel the hell out of everything. I'm not even kidding. I actually want to try that on one of these edges. If you don't know, a crease is essentially just a few tight edge loops, and that's what this is kind of emulating here. If we look at this and zoom in, it's kind of as if there are three edge loops there that are really tight together. So you can kind of manually crease something by creating edge loops that are just really tight and close to each other like this. You can see that we've kind of manually created a crease there by beveling these edges and creating some extra edge loops. It does add to our poly count though, so that's kind of why you typically crease, just because the software can kind of, without doing that extra work, interpret these creased edges so that you don't have to add to your poly count, which is super helpful. Especially once you're, building up a crap ton of hard surface stuff, creasing really helps. So So I'll probably have to adjust some of the positioning here, but we've got a, I think a good balance between our sizes and scales of those objects. Kind of want to tweak the mouth now that I'm looking at it too. Lots of stuff that we want to tweak, but for those that are just kind of popping in here and haven't seen our character, this is what we're working with for the Art War 2 challenge. There's a link down in the description to my progress on this character as I've been working on it. But we've made a lot of progress, absolutely. But still quite a bit to go, for sure. Always more. Always more work to be done. But I like the changes that we've made. Gets better every day. Sometimes a little bit worse though. So not every day. Let's see here. Alright. Let's take a look back at our little headphone piece that we're building. I've kind of tried to line that up with this little band here. Essentially what I wanted the idea to be was these mechanical ear shapes that we have on top of the head amplify her hearing and then feed down into these headphones that she's wearing on her ears. And I have some earrings in the way there, as I wasn't sure if I wanted to go the route of the headphones earlier on. And honestly, still I'm not sure, but I'm glad I got to kind of show you guys some hard surface stuff here. And hopefully that has been a little bit helpful here, as it's probably one of the more requested thing for me to show off in ZBrush. So, in all honesty, what I would probably do for this, probably subdivide it a bunch of times, get it up to find a good level, polygons to work with, and start manually smoothing out some of this so that it can kind of retain that sharp edge, come up to that sharp point, but also allow me to soften it so that it's not quite such a hard transition like what we're seeing there. So a lot more clean, just like what we have right about there. But getting up to that point, it's going to be really tough, really hard to transition from super clean sharp forms to super clean smooth forms. So I'll just kind of play with this a little bit, just manually cleaning this up, and I can show you guys some quick ways that I would texture some of this form. Alright, so I'm going to use my, well actually, yeah, I will. Let me turn off light boolean. So the damn standard brush, if you guys are familiar with that, pretty simple. The brush that I'm using is very similar to that. It's just a little bit of a softer mark here. And you can absolutely do that with the damn standard brush. You just need to modify some of the settings in the alpha. A few things that you can do also is adjust your focal shift. Let me see here. Go up into your, use our mouse, go up into your alpha palette, go to modify, and you can adjust the strength, fall off, a bunch of the different options in here to try to get a little bit of a softer shape. Maybe some of the blur, and if you're still not getting the result that you want, you can also come into your alpha palette and maybe attempt to grab a little bit of a softer alpha transition, if that's something you want to do. Standard brush with maybe the change of an alpha might work as well, but I'm gonna use this one for now. So the basic idea here is I'm gonna turn on lazy mouse, do a quick few tests, and I am just going to create some different size strokes on my mesh, going in some different directions. Look up some reference if you need it. Get an idea here. Some headphones that I've created in the past. Just trying to get that cushiony felt-like feel. The headphones that I have here on my desk, they're Sennheiser headphones. They're more of a cloth, more of a softer cloth, so they don't hold as much form, if you guys can see those. So not quite as tight on all the creasing and everything, but I'm just gonna kind of play with it and experiment and see what we can come up with. So I'm alternating, of course, between additive and subtractive strokes. I'm gonna start with just a few subtractive strokes here and there. Play with building up these forms. And I'm just doing different size brushes and seeing what I can do here. And let's get an extra subdiv in here. Get some extra form. And I'm trying not to go all the way to the edge so that we don't get stuff like that. I'm trying to avoid that as best as I can. So just a few subtractive strokes, come in with some additive strokes close to, kind of going around the same direction as my subtractive strokes, trying to build up that form. Use some different sized brushes, try and build that up, and create a little bit of noise in here. So I'm trying to stroke from the outside in for most of these. Just so I can kind of control where that starts to avoid having that happen on the end. Just trying to be aware of that. So I'm just going to come through here and continue doing this and try to be a little intentional with some of my marks and maybe add some pinching, some other stuff once I get a little bit more form in here in some of these areas. I'm going to use a little bit of a bigger brush. I'm also trying to really focus on going from light to a harder mark as I go from the outside in, just to make sure that, you know, I'm kind of feathering some of these strokes as best I can. I'm using a pretty large brush size here. I'm going to make some of these. Can even smooth some of this out if some of the form's getting a little too strong for my liking. I'm probably gonna end up, like I said, pinching some of these forms. We'll take a look here in a minute. Just trying to change the angle of my strokes a little bit. Try to really focus on my brush size and changing that. Pressure my pen as well. So trying to get really as many different layers of variation in what I'm doing as possible. And that's something that's really tough to do, honestly, when you're kind of doing it for the first time. And my light is really messing with me here. It's fine. But yeah, it's don't get too fed up if it's not going exactly the way you want it right away. Take some time, take it slow. Try to be intentional with your strokes. And it'll come to you. It takes practice. You can, yeah, excuse me. So you can kind of see what that's starting to look like as we add more and more noise in here. I'm going to continue to keep adding. I want to avoid having too many places without texture on them. So we're really starting to get to a point where a lot of this is getting really strong, and that's fine. That's where we kind of want to start to head first. And then from there, I can use a large smooth brush if I want. Try to knock some of this back. Try to make it look more like the texture material that we're going for. I'm going to try a little bit of move AccuCurve here. Pull a sharp point down, if I can. We'll just avoid that. I'm going to use my pinch brush. On some of these areas, just to kind of exaggerate some of the forms that we got. And just use a combination of smooth brush, pinch now to kind of build up the form where we want it. Knock it down where we don't. And really kind of continue to just build up that texture, that basic kind of padded shape. And if it's, you know, not going exactly the direction that we want, can make some tweaks here and there as necessary. I'm going to try... I don't want to do that at that level. I'm going to just add a little bit more thickness here. I'm using move, brush, back face masking on the lowest subdiv here. And pull that in a little bit. Get a little bit of creasing up there. It's not too bad. Really, the inside of those don't really matter just because they aren't going to be seen. But if you really want to worry about it, you can maybe create like a felt insert pad for the ear on the inner portion there, and maybe add some texture to that with the noise palette. Play around with maybe like a gridded texture for the inner portion of inside the ring of the headphone, so it's not quite so flat there. We have such a unique shape to our headphone though, and like I said, it's going to be over top of our ear, and you're not going to be able to see inside of it. But for what we're doing here, I think we're getting a lot closer. Let's turn on Skin Shade 4, grab our material, and apply that. Also with the dark material, it's going to kind of knock out quite a bit of that form there as well. I can kind of still work it, but we've built up a good enough base that it gets the idea across of what we're aiming for. And let's try, I guess, our standard color that we're doing here. And outside we'll do the yellow, just to kind of play with colors and see what this is kind of looking like. Let's turn off these guys as well. So just to kind of get an idea here of our shape, this is currently going into the padding, this boolean, this piece here. That's not how we exactly want that, but for the time being it's fine. Let's do a subtool master mirror. Yep. Throw that on the other side. Essentially with subtool master mirror, it's gonna keep our subdivs in here and also mirror, so it's a little bit better than mirror and weld. You can't have subdivs with that. You can always delete higher and then reconstruct after you mirror and weld, but a reconstruction of your lower subdivs will not result in the same shape that would result from the truer lower subdivs that already exist. And I can show you what I mean by that here in just a minute. It's getting those subdivs correct. And then for the other pieces, they're low poly, so they won't really matter. We can just mirror and weld those. It's taking a minute. It's really not that many polys though, so it shouldn't be too bad. I guess it's just hung up on that 7th or 8th subdiv level. There we go. So real quick here, let me step all the way down, and you can kind of, let's just polygroup that. See the shape that we're working with here. Let's do, that should work. All right, so I'm gonna step this up all the way up to the top, delete lower. So we've deleted our subdivs, and then I'm gonna reconstruct this. And it's getting slower with each one. Let's delete higher, keep on reconstructing. So I've reconstructed down to that lowest subdivision level, and you can see that the geometry has kind of smoothed out. So whenever you do this, it's going to kind of smooth out those lower subdivs even more so. And just kind of repeating this process over and over can result in that. So just be aware of that. Let's go on back. Make sure we got that. Go ahead and mirror and weld this piece and this piece as well. And we'll turn on perspective here, just so we can kind of get an idea of our basic headphone shape. If we like it, if we want to continue with it, maybe they look a little bit small, maybe we want to increase the size there, but yeah, I don't know. either way, I think it was a fun little process that I could walk you guys through here pretty quickly in the past 40 or so minutes, and hopefully it was helpful for you. Hopefully you guys learned something new. I don't know if I'll keep it. I'll probably make some more tweaks to it, absolutely, guaranteed. But I do like that it kind of breaks up the lack of color that I had, lack of color and form in that part of the head. I think there's maybe a little bit too much rest going on there, period of rest, and doing that kind of adds a little bit more splash of color and a little bit more life in that area. So I'm kind of leaning towards the direction of keeping these, but I think time will tell. I'll post something up on my forum where I'm working on this and get kind of the opinion of a few other people, see what they're thinking. Let me go ahead and save this out. And we're at about time here. So thank you guys for coming in and hanging out. Night stream, I know, a little late, and not everybody's able to come in and join us, but that's why they're thrown up on YouTube. So if you guys miss any stream, don't worry about it. You guys can go over to my YouTube channel and catch up if there's anything specific that you guys want to watch. So thanks again for coming to hang out. Hope you guys have a great night, and I'll see you in the next stream. Oh, and before I go, I just want to mention that tomorrow's Thursday, right? Yes. Or actually, it's past midnight, so for me, it is Thursday already. On Thursday, there's going to be a new episode of Art Anonymous, which is a podcast that myself and my friend Daryl, who's a traditional sculptor, we kind of do together, and we've been having a lot of fun and experimenting with that. So there's a new episode coming out tomorrow. If you're not already subscribed to my YouTube channel, please do if you want to check that out, and maybe check out some future streams if you're available. And maybe if you're completely new to ZBrush, I'll just shout this out really quick since it's new for me. Over on my Gumroad page, I have a little how-to ZBrush supercut. This here is footage that exists on my YouTube channel for free in a series of about 13, 14 videos. This is the supercut version, so all the advertisements are cut, shoutouts to my Patreon and all that are removed, and it's just a single video that's about a little over 2 hours of footage of the Quick Start ZBrush course that I run, which is a way to get up and running in ZBrush as quickly as possible. Not only that, it comes with my clay materials that I use personally, my personal brushes that I use in ZBrush, and my female base mesh that I use in ZBrush all the time. And each of these is $3, so that's $9, so I'm not charging you anything for the footage, but the supercut version, if that's something that you're interested in, please do check that out. I appreciate you guys' support, and again, as always, I appreciate you guys coming in and hanging out and chatting with me. So, next stream, tomorrow morning. Or actually, I'm so sorry. People are working on my house tomorrow morning. So tomorrow night. I'll see you guys tomorrow night. Again, have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one. Alright, bye now.